Benjamin Britten was the leading composer in the middle of the 20th century in Britain. He was born in 1913 and he died in 1976. With the War Requiem, he was asked to write a piece in commemoration of the Second World War.
This is a major work of the 20th century which uses many of the techniques that composers were using at that time. Britten encountered the gamelan not long before he wrote the War Requiem, and he incorporates some of the techniques that the gamelan uses. For instance, he uses ritualistic bells, and he has some sections very loosely scored within the piece. Obviously, the two world wars loom large over the century and indeed over this piece. But there's also the idea of uncertainty, a key theme of the 20th century.
Britten was determined to make this idea of reconciliation very real in the music of the War Requiem, and that affected even his choice of soloists. The tenor was the English singer Peter Pears. The baritone was Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau, who was the leading German singer of the day. And the soprano soloist was to be the Russian Galina Vishnevskaya. But on the night, Vishnevskaya failed to get a visa from the Soviet authorities. This was, after all, the height of the Cold War. So the part was in fact taken by the young English soprano Heather Harper.
In this whole piece, the moods are very different. So first you start off a bit like sad, like worrying, weeping, and then as you move on, you feel anger, and then it moves on to holiness, sadness again, and then to end it with, it's just like, it's basically saying, deliver me, like take me to the heavens, send me away. Almost kind of like a sweet, but at the same time a bit sad.
The War Requiem is a big piece and it demands very big forces. There's a full symphony orchestra, there's a choir, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. There are 3 vocal soloists, a soprano, a tenor and a baritone. There's a children's choir and there's a small chamber orchestra and an organ, all on the one stage together.
The stage is split into 3 layers. The closest to the audience would be the tenor, the baritone and the chamber orchestra.
On the second layer, there's the soprano, the full orchestra and the full choir.
And in the furthest section, it's a children's choir, which is normally boys, and organ.
So I'm trying to recreate the moods that Britten was trying to evoke with each different section. And it's clear that he wants a dramatic shift when we go from the huge orchestra to the chamber orchestra, and from the soprano soloist to the 2 male soloists, from the big choir to the 2 individuals singing. And I think it's my role as the conductor to really highlight those changes and the shifts and the dramatic. We go from this large group to a very intimate group, and how can I exaggerate that to create the right mood?
What's your favourite part about the War Requiem?
Every part, starting from the very first note, is spectacular. The idea that whenever the chimes play, you know, you hear those chimes that come in all through the piece, they're playing this interval which is called a tritone. And it used to be called the devil's interval in the old days, but it's probably the most conflicted, and interval is when you have 2 notes together, and it's the most conflicted interval in all of the music because it requires some resolution. So it's the interval, this one idea that he starts with, requires resolution, but of course it also ends the piece, so there is no resolution. But for me, the idea that Britten could start with this very little idea, very simple concept, and build an entire 85-minute piece incorporating that is real genius.
We went to the Queen Elizabeth Hall where we met musicians from the Royal Academy. We also sang Dies Irae and explored different parts of the Latin Mass.
The Dies Irae uses terrifying images to describe the final last day of judgment.
Britten chooses an uncomfortable meter. It's not in 2, it's not in 4, it's in 7.
It has rhythm, it has regular meter, and it rhymes. Dies irae, dies illa, solvet seclum in favilla, teste David cum sibilla. Quantus tremor est veturus, quando iudex est venturus, cuncta stricte discussurus. Dies irae, dies illa, solvet seclum in favilla, teste David cum sibilla.
It's a powerful, powerful moment because it incorporates all of our fears. And at the same time, there's a brutality about it. I mean, can you imagine that you will be judged and you could be, doomed to eternity in hell? This is the idea behind it. So the music is extremely intense, extremely powerful.